been many holy days since the last Ekadashi. We've been celebrating a series of special holy days of recognition of our previous acharyas and incarnations of Krishna. Lord Vamanadev, who is one of the famous members of the Dashavatara Stotram of Jayadev Goswami, Vamanadev, and the dwarf incarnation of Krishna, who appeared in the Yagyashthala of Bali Maharaj. And then we had Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day and disappearance day of Haridas Thakur, which could be today. I'm not quite up on the titis, but I think it's today. But Haridas Thakur's disappearance day. The day that Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, took sannyas on this auspicious day, 1959. And he dedicated his life to translating these books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar Devotion, and Upadeshamrita of Rupa Goswami. They're the main, and in the Ishopanishad, one of the most important Upanishads. Prabhupada translated very early on. So Prabhupada was a very prolific writer, very pure devotee of Krishna, and he presents the essence, the conclusion, and the essence of bhakti in every shloka of Bhagavatam. So today you'll hear the essence of bhakti. Every time you come here, you'll hear the essence of devotional service, the essence of the message to go back home, back to Godhead. And this chapter is called Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. And our bi-monthly magazine is called Back to Godhead, or BTG for short. So very much our prayojana, the goal of ISKCON devotees, the goal of the bhaktas, is to go back to Godhead. We have our goal set. When you know where your goal is, where you're going, then you can work out how to get there. But if we don't know the purpose, if we don't know where we're heading for, then it's difficult to get to the goal. If you just have any goal, or there's no goal, or there's so many goals, but we have a specific goal. We want to go back to Godhead. And within Godhead, there are different places where we can go, different realms of the spiritual world. It's unlimited. And then we have a process to get there. It's called Abhidaya, process to achieve our goal. And that process is Panchanga Bhakti, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're doing today, chanting the holy name, which we did today, and worshipping the deity, which we're doing now. In front of the deity, we're having the darshan of the deity, we came for darshanati of Gaunitai, Shri Radha Giridhari, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Giriraj Maharaj, and the Acharyas. That is an important part of our process of going back to Godhead, deity worship. Shraddhaya Murtaya Sevam, to worship the deity with Shraddha, with faith. And associating with the devotees, Sadhu Sangha. Today we're here for Satsang. Many of you will understand what Satsang is. You go to Satsang. So this is a Satsang environment. And the ultimate one is to live in the holy Mathura Vas, to live in Mathura. So really we're not in Riverhead today. We're welcome to Mathura. We're in, Prabhuji thinks he lives in Riverhead, but he doesn't live in Riverhead. He lives in the holy Dham. This is a holy Dham. So this place is, on the map it says it's the Hare Krishna school. If you see on the Google, if you do a GPS search for Hare Krishna, you'll see this whole land is called Hare Krishna school, big school. And the school has a very big temple by Radha Giridhari's mercy. This is the way it came out on their mapping. So this is a holy place. And then within the holy place, there are many holy places. And in our homes, there's a holy place. So that's the fifth anga of bhakti, to live in the holy place, to make our place a dham. And we make our place a dham by doing these things, hearing and chanting, inviting devotees to our house, offering prasadam, receiving prasadam, etc. So let's read the verse. We go through the verse word by word, then line by line, then we do the synonyms and translation and commentary on the translation. This is a system that Prabhupada has given to us so that we really dive deep into this Bhagavatam. It's said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that every syllable in the Bhagavatam can be understood from many, many angles of vision. Every word, every syllable. So that's why we do the word for word. You repeat after me. First we do an invocation mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Try to do it all together in the same time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sa Tadarsha Imanagyam Nibhaso Avatarat. That hyphen, that what do you call that? That apostrophe, thank you. That apostrophe before the V means that there's a vowel missing there, and the vowel is avatara. Avatarat Dhruvaha Vibrajayat Dasha Disho Rakapatim Ivoritam Sadarsha Vimanagram. It's a tricky one. Sadarsha Vimanagram Nabaso Vyatara Dhruvaha Viprajaya Dasho Disho Rakapati Nivoditam Sadadasha Vimanagyam. That's where we got it wrong. It's a double da. Sadadasha Vimanagyam Bhaso Vyatara Dhruvaha Vibrajaya Dasho Disho Rakapati Nivoditam. Sadadasha Vimanagyam Nabaso Vyatara Dhruvaha Vibrajaya Dasha Disho Rakapati Nivoditam. Sadadasha Vimanagyam Nivaso Vatara Dhruvaha Vibrajaya Dasha Disho Rakapati Nivoditam. Sadardasha Vimanagyam Nabaso Vyatara Dhruvaha Vibrajaya Dasha Disho Rakapati Nivoditam. Sadadashavimanayam Nabhaso Yataradruva Vibrajaya Dasadisho Rakapati Nivoditam. Anybody else like to have a try? Newcomers, old comers? Okay, let's hear what Prabhupada has to say. Hear the translation. Saha, he, Tadarsha, saw. He saw, not the saw that you cut with. He saw. Vimana, an airplane. Agyam, very beautiful. Nabhasaha, from the sky. Avatarat, descending. Dhruvaha, Dhruva Maharaj. Vibrajayat, illuminating. Dasha, 10. Dishaha, directions. Prakapatim, the full moon. Ida, like. Uditam, visible. Translation in purport by Srila Prabhupada. As soon as the symptoms of his liberation, Dhruva Maharaj's, were manifest, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. Purport. There are different levels of acquired knowledge. Direct knowledge, knowledge received from authorities, transcendental knowledge, knowledge beyond the senses, and finally, spiritual knowledge. When one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he is immediately situated in the transcendental platform. Dhruva Maharaj, being liberated from the material concept of life, was situated in transcendental knowledge and could perceive the presence of a transcendental aeroplane, which was as brilliant as the full moonlight. This is not possible in the stages of direct or indirect perception of knowledge. Such knowledge is a special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can, however, rise to this platform of knowledge by the gradual process of advancing in devotional service for Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Namasrishtamanumaphi Sachiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamurupari Maturim Goshtapitim Radha Kundagiri Vidamaho Radhika Madhavasam Praptaya Sapatita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Nadosmi Sadadarsha Vimanagyam Nabaso Vyatadadruvaha Viprajayata Shodesho Rakapati Mivoditam. As soon as the symptoms of his liberation were manifest, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. Generally, when we hear of Dhruva Maharaj, we think that Dhruva Maharaj is a childhood saint. 5-year-old boy, Dhruva Maharaj, he was rejected by his father, King Uttanapad, and he went to the forest and he received transcendental knowledge after performing tapasya and being enlightened by his Guru Maharaj, Narada Muni. So that is our vision of Dhruva Maharaj. as a childhood saint, like Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, 5-year-old boy. His father rejected him also, threw him off his lap also. Two 5-year-old boys were thrown off the laps of their fathers. Of course, King Upanatad wasn't such a demon as Hiranyakashipu. But now, in this part of the Bhagavatam, in this chapter, we're hearing of a king, King Dhruva. He's an elderly person. He's renounced his kingdom, and he's in Badrik Ashram. He's gone to the Himalaya. He's left his kingdom, his treasury, his conveyances, his opulences, his children, his wife, his ministers, everything left behind. He's renounced that, like Prabhupada did his renunciation in 1959. So he's left everything and gone to the mountains after 30,000 years of ruling the planet as being emperor of the earth. So this is that Dhruva. This is Dhruva. That's why I say Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is renouncing. And by dint of his bhakti, and that is stressed throughout the previous shlokas in this chapter. The previous chapter is very, very dramatic and very aggressive manifestation of enmity. But in this chapter, you'll hear in the previous shlokas that Dhruva Maharaj he's somewhat contained now, and Kuvera, the leader of the treasurer of the demigods, has come to offer benedictions to Dhruva Maharaj. And he will give him anything that he wants, anything that he asks for. But Dhruva Maharaj doesn't want anything material. He doesn't want anything from the treasury. He doesn't want any wealth. He doesn't want any followers. He doesn't want any position. He's finished with all that. He knows what that is. It's a temporary part of our existence here in the material world. And he's finished with that. He's completely purified of that. And he wants bhakti. So he requests from Kuvera that he just gives him bhakti, that he gives him the ability to meditate and to see Krishna. He just wants to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. And by the blessings of Kuvera and the blessings of Narada Muni, the blessings of the great sages, indeed that's what happens. And he develops this love of Godhead, as we see in this verse today. When the symptoms manifest, as soon as the symptoms manifest of his love for Krishna, deep love for Krishna, you can say, it must have been Astasattvika Bhav, some kind of all these different symptoms of love of Godhead manifest. The aeroplane came, a very beautiful aeroplane, not made of tin and metal or plastics and things like this, but a beautiful aeroplane. You can say a flower aeroplane appeared there. And these aeroplanes are referred many times in the Shastras. We hear about them in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the celestial aeroplanes. They have this technology. In the Vedic times, they have very advanced technology. One time, a devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what is the technology in the Vedic times? Like, we have so much sophisticated technology now, 21st century, but this was the last century, in the 60s, where we can say that we've made so much huge advancements in technology and in all levels of technology. We've made massive progress. But even in the 60s, we had these big mainframe computers and we had very clunky machines, and we thought we were very advanced. And they asked Prabhupada, did we have such technology as this big computer? Did we have technology that could print things? And did we have technology that we could build big skyscraper buildings, cranes and scaffolding and all sorts of complex engineering? What was the Vedic times? We read in Ramayana of big palaces in Ayodhya, of the palaces, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Dwarka, and in Mathura. These were great cities. They weren't villages with glass huts. They had very big palatial buildings, and they had all sorts of natural aerodynamic cooling systems and all sorts of warming systems and things according to the climate of the year. So what was the technology? I was confused. It's natural to think, in terms of history, archaeologically, anthropologically, what was going on back 5,000 years ago that we don't know about. And Prabhupada said his direct answer was parampara. And then the devotee, he said, parampara, that's not technology, right? Maybe Prabhupada didn't hear the question. He didn't hear properly. So he said, no, Prabhupada. Question is, what was the technology in the Vedic times? And Prabhupada said, technology was parampara. So, okay. So then he's pondered that. Prabhupada didn't elaborate. And that was the end of it. He didn't want to ask third time or spell it out, T-C-H-A-N-O-L-O-G-Y. He didn't want to go to that, He just said, okay, Prabhupada left it at that, parampara. So he spent the next 30 or 40 years of his life contemplating on what does it mean. And he shared that with us, this devotee. So the result of the contemplation and the meditation on Prabhupada's responses, and actually Prabhupada gave the initial clue, where he said that technology is, if you have a problem with hearing, then you get a hearing aid. Or if you have a problem with communication, you want to communicate to a large audience, then the technology uses microphone and amplification. And if you have a technology, it's very cold here, then you develop systems of heating, underground heating, very advanced heating or something like that. You put it in and you make systems for heating. It's technology, right? Technology is a practical application of science, of physics, of manipulating the material energy in different ways to create a situation that will be more comfortable here, to create more creature comfort. It's technology. So that's what we have technology for. Transportation. We need to get from point A to point B. So we have a technology, horse and cart technology, bullock cart technology, and then it develops to a motorized technology, a motor car, and then it develops to all sorts of Tesla electronic cars with battery operated cars. That is technology, right? It's just the same thing. We're getting from point A to point B in this technology. So Prabhupada said the technology it's a practical application of science, and it's to create remove difficulties, create a more comfortable situation, to remove difficulties. But the real technology is the real problems in life are not heating and cold, and they're not being cold, they're not communication, they're not transportation. These are secondary issues, secondary problems in life. The real problem in life is birth, death, disease, and old age. How to overcome birth, death, disease, and old age. That is a real technology. And there's no technology in any of our institutes, in any of our IITs or any of our MITs or any of our AITs or AUTs or wherever we go. There's no department that will give us a technology to overcome birth, death, disease, and old age. So parampara is technology. Evam parampara praptam namarajasya vidu sakalena mahata yoga nashta vijaya yoga nashta parantapa. Oh parantapa. This is parampara. This is technology. Arjuna. Parampara is a technology that's been an ancient technology that's coming down from the sun god. Vivashvan to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku, Ikshvaku to Manu, Manu to mankind. So this is our real technology, the parampara. And Prabhupada refers to it in this purport as a descending process, coming down process of technology to cure the disease, to cure the problems, the ultimate problem of all living entities, of birth, death, disease, and old age. So that's where we wanted to start with, the parampara. And the reference here is when one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process. Now we're going to unpack this sentence because at first I got this sentence a bit confused in my mind. There's a lot in this purport. by understanding acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he's immediately situated on the transcendental platform, where Dhruva Maharaj is, on the transcendental platform. So, the Prabhupada at the beginning of the purport, he refers to different types of knowledge. He says there's a direct knowledge, there's an indirect knowledge, there's the knowledge received from authorities, transcendental knowledge, knowledge beyond the senses. These are different types of pramanas. Okay, understanding. How do we understand anything? It's called in philosophical studies in the universities. We have a study, or in education, we have a study called epistemology. And in epistemology, we try to understand the theory of knowledge. How do we gain knowledge in this material world? Through language, how do we do that? And philosophers, since time immemorial, have tried to understand and give conclusive evidence to establish their positions that knowledge, this is the real knowledge, this is the process of knowledge, this is how we get knowledge. But someone else will refute that, and then another school of thought comes. But in the Vedic system, it's different. Pramana is very well established, and there's very consistent and coherent system of establishing what is knowledge. We call this a proofing system. And that is contained, there are 10 different forms of pramanas, according to Jiva Goswami, but Prabhupada simplifies that, and the Acharyas simplify that into three different systems of gaining knowledge, of understanding knowledge. And the first one is pratyaksha, knowledge that comes straight to the aksha, to the eyes, to the senses. Any knowledge that we receive through the eyes, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the skin, that is directly perceived knowledge. That's one system of knowledge. And there are limitations with pratyaksha. And we won't get into too much detail about establishing which is the higher topmost and what are the limitations, because it takes a long time to unpack these different systems of knowledge. The next one is anuman, or inference. Logic, putting things together. That's the knowledge that Prabhupada is referring to here as knowledge beyond the senses. It's not directly perceived, but we can infer that knowledge. We can see that there's smoke in the hill, in the mountain there must be fire there. There must be fire far up in the hill. Or we can hear something coming, a train coming to us. We feel that there must be a train on the way because we can hear the sound of the train coming. So that is inferred. We can't see it, but we infer from our previous experiences and from our previous knowledge. We put things together in our brain, in our mind, and we understand the train's coming, or we see the smoke on the mountain. That is a form of knowledge, anuman, and there are limitations with that. But we use anuman. We use pratyaksha, limitations, but we use it. We use anuman, inference, logical understanding. But there are limitations, we use it. And the third one is Shabda Praman. The Shabda Praman is the sending process. The Shabda Praman is hearing, Shruti Praman, to hear the knowledge from Bhagavatam, to hear the knowledge from the Vedas, to hear the knowledge from the spiritual master. Tadviginatam sadguru meva vikachet. Prabhupada quotes this verse many, many times. And he always, not always, but most times, he analyzes this verb in this verse. It's from the Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad. Eva bigachet. Eva bigachet means it must be done. It's an imperative form of verb. You must abhigachet. You must go. Where must you go? You must go to the Guru to hear knowledge, so that you can overcome the problems of birth, death, disease, and old age. If you don't hear this knowledge, and if you don't take it from authority, then you won't be successful. He says you can't be successful by studying this knowledge at home. There's no such thing as homeschooling in this system. Homeschooling is for here, in the material world. And we have some successful systems of homeschoolers. But in spiritual life, you can't. Homeschooling means you have to home. Of course, we have our system of hearing and chanting at home, but that has to be under the direction of authority. It's not just that every home has their own system of authority. I'm the boss of this house. This is how we do our spiritual life. We don't care how anyone else does it. No. We do it at home. We do it the same way we do it here. And that's why Prabhupada set up the temple. The temple is a system of education. It's an educational institution, the mandir. It's not just a place to come for ritual, to do the agabati and to do the chamara. Not for that. That's part of it. But the most important part of coming to the temple is to hear. It says in the Bhagavatam that people who go to the holy place just to worship the bricks or to bathe, to have a bath in the holy river, they don't get the purpose of going to the holy dham. So eva gokara means they're just like a gokara, means they're just the same, not different to a cow or an ass, because they should go there to the holy place to hear from authority, to hear from the sadhus there, who live there, who can help them to become free from birth, death, disease, and old age. That's obviously the theme of today's lesson, how to become free. And how to understand that is through authority, a descending process. So I won't go too much into these, the knowledge part of things, but it's something that is dealt with in great detail in the Tattva Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami is one of the greatest philosophers of all times. So he establishes the different systems of knowledge, this is different systems of knowing. And he identified these 10, and within these 10, he himself, they become, all of those 10 are assumed in the 3. That is Pratyaksha Anuman and Shabda Praman. And Shabda is our most important system of knowledge. And he establishes Bhagavatam as the ultimate pramana. And he does that in a very, very detailed way. First of all, he establishes that the Itihasa and the Puranas are more important than the Vedas. Now, this is the first great scholar, Vedic scholar, that has done that, even attempted to do that. 16th century scholar, Jiva Goswami. He established that the Puranas and the Itihasa, Mahabharata and Ramayana are more important than the Vedas, and he gives many, many references from scriptures to establish the point. And the main point is parampara. The Vedas have lost the parampara. The parampara has been broken. There are schools, 2 or 3 schools only, of Yajurveda and one other Samaveda school intact, but they haven't got a full comprehend. All the text isn't there, so they have the parampara still there in a very few schools of Vedic thought, branches of Vedic knowledge, but all the text is not there. Text has been lost over time because of transmission, etc. So that's one reason why. That's the main reason why, parampara. And there are other reasons why, because of coherence and etc., etc. Then when he establishes that the Puranas and Itihasa, the histories, are more important than the Vedas, he goes through from quoting from Matsya Purana and different Puranas, that Garuda Purana, that of all the Puranas, Bhagavatam is the most essential Purana. And it's the most essential because of the commentaries, going back to Shrita Swami and going back to Lord Rama. It has an intact parampara. Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, has commentary on Gayatri Mantra. It has pastime of Chitraketu. There's 5 or 6 reasons. There's 5 reasons specifically why Srimad Bhagavatam, out of all of the Puranas, is the ultimate Purana. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, it says that it's the essence of the Veda. Sava Vedanta Sadami Srimad Bhagavatam Nishyate. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic thought. And when we develop a taste, Tadarasamrita Triptasya, for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Nanyatyasya Dharvi Kvachit, then we won't want to hear any other source of literature. not just Vedic literature, but any literature, any mundane literature that we hear. Because the Bhagavatam is it's the Nigamakapatodogalitam palam sukhamukadamrita dravi samvitam. Pibata Bhagavatam rasama alayam rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. It's the ripened fruit of the Vedas. And it's it's become sweet because it's been tasted by Shukadeva Goswami and presented in such a way that is relishable for all introspective devotees of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's our ultimate pranama. Now, Dhruva Maharaj is going back to Godhead. He's received, he's developed these symptoms of love of Godhead, and I wanted to talk a little bit about those symptoms, not necessarily the highest symptoms of love of Godhead, the Ashta Sattvika Bhavas in the Nectar of Instruction, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, but there are preliminary stages. And there's the preliminary stage of love of Godhead before the airplane comes, before the Lord comes down and takes us back to Godhead, VTG, is Bhava Bhakti. We have a progression we come in at the base level of our Bhakti journey is Shraddha. We develop faith in the process. To make that jump, to make that leap from our material world to the spiritual world of existence, we need Shraddha. In anything in life, we need to Shraddha to change something, to go somewhere, to dive into the unknown. It requires faith. So we jump into the bhakti by the sangha, association. We develop faith by association. Ado Shraddha Tadu Sadhu Sangha. By the Sadhu Sangha, we can start the process of anatta nivriti, of removing unwanted things in our. And then we go through different stages. Bhajana Kriya, we become initiated, we remove the unwanted things in the heart, we develop a taste, we become steady, we are sakti, we become completely detached from material things and attached to Krishna. That is our real attachment, is Krishna's devotional service. And then we get to a stage of Bhava Bhakti. This is the highest end, where Dhruva Maharaj is gone from this stage, where the airplane comes. And there, in the second canto of Bhagavatam, we hear 5 or 6 symptoms that are tangible. Sometimes we think that bhakti is something that is ephemeral, something that is intangible, something that we can't grasp, we can't see, we can't touch, we can't taste. It's just something that just comes out of the sky. It's just like, an abstract noun, but it's not. It's something that is concrete and tangible and relatable. And the first symptom, according to this analysis in the Bhagavatam, and it's a quotation in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The first symptom is that, or one of the symptoms, I won't say the first symptom, is that one doesn't waste time in their life. They're completely, their time management is like to the second. The devotee won't waste 1 second of life because they realize how precious life is. And so they don't want to waste 1 moment of their existence in not thinking of Krishna. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namastu. Always thinking of Krishna, offering something to Krishna, working out how I can please Krishna. That is the whole consciousness and the anxiety and the whole mentality of a devotee, is that how can I use every moment of this waking day in Krishna's service, and then go to sleep dreaming about that, and then wake up and executing what we dreamt about. That's the highest level. This is not where we're at, but this is the highest level. It's aspirational. This is our goal, to get there, to not want to waste any time in our bhakti, in our material lives. And of course we have material lives, and of course we have to go to work, and of course we have responsibilities at home, and we have responsibilities to our society, and responsibilities to our community, etc., etc. And we execute those. We execute those responsibilities. But like Raghunath Das Goswami and like so many devotees who were trained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we execute them, but in the consciousness that we're always thinking of Krishna. We're executing them very diligently, and everybody may think that we're just like the same as anybody else, but we have our internal connection with Krishna, and that keeps us alive in devotional life, spiritual life. So that is known as avyata kalatvam. Never waste a moment in our spiritual life. And then kshantir. Kshantir is when we have a cessation of material desire. Desire must be there. We can never become desireless. That is a false understanding of meditation groups, or a false understanding of Buddhism, to become desireless. Desire is the cause of suffering. To remove suffering, become desireless. It sounds good. It sounds like a very tight syllogistic understanding, but it's not. Because the flaw in that argument is, the flaw in that presentation is that we can't become desireless. It's impossible for the jiva to have no desire. We just can't do it. So we want to become free from material desires. That is kshanti. Kshanti rajavam. In the Gita it tells us that's a symptom, or that's one of the qualities of the devotee. We become free from material desires. And the only way to become free from material desires is to desire Krishna, to desire engagement in Krishna service. Param drishtva nivartate, to have a higher desire, to have a higher taste in bhakti. If we don't have bhakti, if we don't have sangha, if we don't have association, if we don't have deity worship, we won't have a hope of becoming free from material desires. We'll become overwhelmed by material desires. For some times we may keep it at bay, and then we'll become completely overwhelmed by the tsunami of desires. So this is a symptom of Bhava Bhakti, that we become free from material desires. And then we develop an eagerness, a taste for hearing the holy name. The devotee, he wants to hear the rasa of Krishna's name. It's namagane sadaruchi. We develop a taste for just hearing about Krishna, just hearing the holy name and the pastimes of Krishna. The holy name, when we chant Krishna's name and we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that includes all of Krishna's pastimes. The whole package is there. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's why it's called the Maha Mantra. When we chant the holy name, then we have the whole Leela, when we chant purely the holy name. So that is a symptom that very soon, if we develop that taste, that ruchi for the holy name, the airplane's coming. Until we develop that taste, we're stuck in the airport. We're not moving anywhere. We're in lockdown, until we develop that taste. And the namagane sadaruchi. And then there is attraction for the holy Dham. And many devotees develop this attraction. The first time you go, the holy Dham is not like going to India. We go to India, the holy Dham it's an oasis of the spiritual world in India. It's in India, of course. Vrindavan is in India, Mayapur is in India, Rameshwar is in India, Dwarka Dham is in India. They're all in India, but they're not in India. They're oases of the spiritual world. They're replicas of the spiritual world. And they're holy dhams because Krishna performed pastimes there, because the devotees are there engaging in eternal pastimes of the Lord there, hearing and chanting about the holy name of the Lord. And because of that, the places are surcharged with bhakti. And then anyone who goes there becomes inspired, automatically becomes inspired to develop their bhakti. Even if they're not, a seasoned devotee, they'll feel that this place is very different to where I just came from. I just came from Delhi or Kolkata or some other city. This place is different. What is the difference? It's the difference is the place is surcharged with bhakti. And when we develop a taste, a longing to live in the holy Dham and not to live in the crowded cities and not to live in our comfort zone, then we start to prepare ourselves for the ultimate perfection in our bhakti. The next one is virakti, detachment from material happiness. So we're not the, we don't, it's not the detachment from happiness. The process of bhakti is susukam. It's incredibly happy. It's not just sukam, it's susukam. It's high happiness, intense happiness. Ananda maya vyasat. It's where the real ananda is there in bhakti, but it's not material happiness. Because material happiness is something that is temporary. Material happiness will not endure. Material happiness will not keep us, will not satisfy us. It's dushpradena nalenacha. It's something that's not going to endure. Material happiness. Material happiness means happiness separated from Krishna. So that is the virakti. And the last one is mana shunyata. And this word mana is interesting because it's a Maori word also. Mana. If we say somebody has mana in Maori language, means they've got position, right? He's got mana. She's got reputation, right? This person. She's got mana in the community or in the society, in the country. So we want to become mana shunyata, free from that position, from that feeling of importance, etc., etc. And that is a sense of false pride. Pridelessness in the Bhagavatam, in the Gita, it says we need to become free from pride, nimana moha, become free from thinking that I'm something very, very special. And the only way we can do that again is through this Panchanga Bhakti. So that is these are practical symptoms by which we can identify and understand our level of advancement in bhakti. And I wanted to finish off with two examples, or three if we have time, of devotees, high devotees, elevated devotees coming down to our regular devotees, you could say, Hare Krishna devotees, who achieve this level of Dhruva Maharaj, you could say, going back to Godhead. And one of them is the Chaitanya Lila, who's today, I guess, I understand is the day of, or yesterday maybe, of Haridas Thakur's disappearance. It's a very important day on the Vaishnava calendar. And one of Lord Chaitanya's very, very intimate servants, Govinda Das, Haridas Thakur was not allowed in the temple in Jagannath Puri. So he had a place given to him just outside of Jagannath Puri, the temple. But Lord Chaitanya would daily go there, and devotees would go there and take prasadam of Jagannath for Haridas and for Sanatana Goswami, etc. So one day Govinda, who was the personal servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went to see Haridas Thakur. And Haridas was lying on the floor, and he wasn't looking too good. He was elderly, very old. He would chant 192 rounds a day. We chant 16 rounds a day, prescribed rounds. We chant 192 rounds a day. And when Govinda got there with the prasadam, Govinda said, "What's up, Haridas? Why are you lying down? What happened?" He said that he's not feeling well. He's in a disease condition. And so he asked him, "Well, what is the problem?" He said, I can't take the prasadam. He offered him the prasadam. Govinda said, "I can't take the prasadam because I haven't finished my prescribed number of rounds. That's my disease." "What's your disease?" "My disease is I can't chant all my rounds today." So Lord Chaitanya came the next day with devotees, and he asked Haridas, "What's the news? What happened? Why you're in this condition?" And Haridas said, he asked about his health. He said, "Well, my body is okay, but my mind and intelligence are not working properly." And he says, "Why are they not working properly?" He said, "Because I can't chant. I can't chant the holy name of the Lord. And therefore, my mind and intelligence are not functioning. That is the cause. That's the disease I have." And Lord Chaitanya said, "You don't have to chant 192 rounds a day. Haridas, you've surpassed that. You're way above the regulations, the rules and regulations. You don't have to continue to chant like that. You chant one round, Haridas." He said, "No, he feels that he understands that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is about to wind up his pastimes on this planet. He's about to go back, finish up. He's nearly over. And he said, I don't want to see those last days. I can't bear to be here in this world without you. So Lord Chaitanya said, look, your purpose for your appearance here, for his avatar, he called him avatar. So the purpose for your avatar, for your descending, like this word today we have, vatarat, dhruvaha. The purpose for your avatar, for coming here to the material world is finished. You don't have to follow the rules and regulations, just stay here. He said, no, I can't stay. I don't want to see the final pastimes. I want to leave this world. You give me the blessing that I leave this world in your presence, that I see your lotus feet. I take your lotus feet onto my chest, onto my heart, and I see your moon-like face, chanting your holy name. That's what I want. It's 3 conditions he gave to me. That's what I want to see. I want to see your moon-like face. I want your lotus feet on my heart, and I want to be chanting Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya came the next day. He went and performed his moon oblations, came back the next day. And the next day, he asked Haridas what the news was. And he said, same condition. I want to leave. Now I'm ready to leave. And Lord Chaitanya had brought all the devotees. So many hundreds of devotees had come with Lord Chaitanya, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, to see Haridas Thakur in his passing away. And so Haridas Thakur, he took the dust of all the devotees who came, the dust from their feet, and smeared it on his body. And he took Lord Chaitanya's feet and placed them on his heart, on his chest. And he was looking at Lord Chaitanya's face, his moon-like face, and he was chanting, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And he left his body in the association of all the Vaishnavas and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he felt so, the mood there, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, it was such an ecstatic mood to be in the presence of a Mahabhagavat, to be in the presence of Haridas Thakur, going back to Godhead. Then Lord Chaitanya picked up his body and placed him on his lap. And then he started to dance with his body. And at that time, Swarup Damodar, he's always there to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his moods and to adjust things if they're going too much astray. He said, there's things we have to do now. Haridas has left his body. We have to do samadhi. We have to do certain things, practical things. So then they organized to take Haridas Thakur to the beach where they would make a samadhi for Haridas Thakur's body. And it said that Haridas was carried down to the beach on a beautiful airplane-like vimana, like this airplane that comes from the spiritual world. And it must have been a flower plane that came and took Haridas Thakur. They carried him to the beach, and they have a very beautiful ceremony there where they did like a samadhi ceremony, covered him in sandalwood paste from Jagannath, and silk robes from the Jagannath temple flags and prasadam they put there on his body and covered his body in sand. And that place, Lord Chaitanya said, and then the devotees bathed afterwards in the ocean. So this ocean is now a holy tirtha because Haridas Thakur Samadhi is here on the shore. And the devotees have bathed the body of Haridas Thakur and entombed him here in his Samadhi. So Haridas Thakur was such an amazing personality. Lord Chaitanya glorified him like he had 5 mouths. He couldn't stop glorifying Haridas Thakur. He was remembering all the incidents of Haridas Thakur's life, how exalted he was, born in a Muslim family, and how he was such an emblem of bhakti, that he was so attached to the holy name. He was a great speaker of the Bhagavatam. He was a great speaker. He was a great orator. He was a great, just a wonderful example of humility and all of the qualities of a Vaishnava. That was Haridas Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada left in a very similar fashion, you can say, in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was ready to go. he organized so many things for the devotees to come to Vrindavan over the last few months. And if you read Hari Saurya Prabhu's book, Back to Vrindavan, you'll really enter into the mood of the devotees and Prabhupada's preparation for his departure. Prabhupada was fully prepared and understanding that he was going to leave this world and making sure that the devotees were prepared for his departure. And Prabhupada was, to the last breath, translating Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 13th chapter, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In that way, really providing us with the ultimate example of how to prepare to leave our bodies. King Kurushekar says, "Let me go now, while I'm still in good health. Let the swan of my mind be entangled in the lotus feet of Krishna. Because at the time of death, kanta varoda nabido iti smaranam tasme." How will I remember Krishna when my voice is choked up? It won't be possible, he's thinking. He's preparing himself. How will I don't think I can do that at the time of my death. When I kappa vitta bayo, when everything's all in balance and everything goes haywire. Let me do it now when I'm still strong and healthy. Let me depart. But Prabhupada was able to make his departure, organize his departure in a very wonderful way. Surrounded by devotees chanting Hare Krishna, Brahma Samhita, in the holy Dham, Vrindavan. And the last one I wanted to say, and I'll just slip it in here at the end, is of a regular devotee, Hare Krishna devotee who wasn't a Brahma. She wasn't a sannyasi, she wasn't a sannyasini, she wasn't a guru, she was a simple housewife who didn't have any recognition. Nobody outside her community knew who she was, I would say, this woman. Recently, it was only a couple of months back, she left her body, and her husband wrote about the experience of her leaving her body. And he said she sewed for the deities in their local temple, and she served them very, very, diligently for 40, 50 years, Prabhupada disciple. And he's a Prabhupada disciple. They remained married for that whole time. She did this service, and she was not, she wasn't recognized outside her community. But at the time of her death, she said to her husband and to her loved ones and the local devotees, she's ready to go. She's prepared. She wants to go back now. She's finished here. The material world body's not working properly. And then right just before she left her body, she called out to Radharani, "Radha, Radha." And she told her husband, "Don't worry, you can leave me now. Radharani's here. I'm going back." Finished. And she went back. So many stories like that of devotees right at the end of their lives who did wonderful services, not necessarily big-time devotees, but just follow the 4 regular principles, chant 16 rounds a day, back home, back to Godhead. Flower aeroplane comes to take them and take us if we continue, if we just stick to the 4 regular principles and chant Hare Krishna. Sounds easier, but maybe not so easy. Okay. Any questions or comments? Reflections? Anything else? We've nearly emptied out the temple room.
If there is love for Krishna, things are easy. It is not there, things are so it should be love for
Very
Krishna.
nice. Thank you, Mataji. That's a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's the first verse of one of the chapters in there, Madhya Lila. It says that Katanchana smriti jasma duskaram sukaram babe vismriti viparatam shat Shri Chaitanya namami tam. That if you love Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, things will become very easy. If you don't love Mahaprabhu, things become very tough, very difficult. So we have to develop our love for Krishna, for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and things will become easy.
And Rahul said last thing of bhakti leave your aham, and it's the personal relationship between devotee and the Bhagwan. Like when I give the example of the lady, so even if she wasn't time, she was for her rescue.
Sure. Definitely. Anything else?
Football thought very different aspects of evolution, the issue system. I personally feel that visually that's how human evolution happened, because through the senses, the eyes, everything is, and the third came the parampara, or the way of big pass on nothing. Because person that has to first visually or two senses see something. Then there's something in the example of fire, so think that fire. First, I have to know what the fire is. Then the inference I can draw probably this is happening. First is that having a feeling, what I feel that what I'm trying to do is that right you said that seeing Krishna from teaching is nothing but books. All these things have to be held, and these can be held within, it's not outside, but the Guru can open the eyes, how to feel, what is that, what is the subtle proofs that, hey, Krishna is there or Krishna is there. It's hard for me, and when you come across day to day, you engage with people who are not on this school of thought. I'm learning this much of something. Get them, you are not doing it because you are doing something good, something is within you, which just again because of the mercy of Krishna. So to make those things feel the person, the quality that you have this self-realization, it's not realization, first is observation and realization. Possession. I don't know, explain, but listening to you, the technique was widening the vision, widening the understanding. Just something.
Thank you. You're a Harvard graduate. You're from Harvard? Yeah. Is he? Are you?
No, I'm with my daughter.
Your daughter. Your daughter.
I was lucky to be here
For the graduation.
Graduation in Harvard.
I
Nice.
had a question answer session.
Good.
So I got the answers.
Yes. I won't respond to everything you said because you touched on many points, but one point that you mentioned about the spiritual master or the guru who, who enlightens you or who enables you to see what's already there. That was something that you mentioned. And that's a prayer that we offer to the spiritual master every morning. Chakudano diloye, janme janme prabhu se. That the spiritual master, he manifests this vision. Chakudana diloye, this manifestation of this vision of where we're going, bhakti. Every day, I want to be, janme janme, Prabhu say, every lifetime I want to be in this situation. Dibigyan dalidi prakashito. He gives, in the heart, he manifests Dibigyan, transcendental knowledge. And that is the descending process. Within the heart, the spiritual master manifests knowledge. And then with that knowledge becomes, like you said, Vigyan, becomes realization. To the heart, and that comes from the spiritual master. Like I said, there's no homeschooling in bhakti. I mean, the home has to be the temple, but the homeschool has to be led by the guru. We have to do it in parampara, the technology to overcome birth, death, disease, and old age, and we don't manufacture anything. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Go Premanandi.